So, my name is Bharat Virmani. I take care for a function called supply chain performance for North America global supply chain of Schneider Electric. And I'll talk more of details, what all it covers. I come with around 22 years of experience and was super happy to see this video, what was played at 1 o'clock starting the event. I started my journey hardcore, a lean manufacturing expert with some consultants in a typical automotive setups, where I picked up how to transform these plants from typical traditional manufacturing to the lean manufacturing. And then I joined Schneider almost 17 years back and had been doing exactly the same job for India, Middle East, Africa, and now 2.5 years into North America. So that's a quick introduction about me, and was very happy to see Laurie. We used to work with Laurie before. He was with us maybe last year, he left us. So we'll be speaking a little bit more details. So what we really have on offer here is how did we transform the digital manufacturing into our operations. It's not something which is very unique, which is covering very, very basics, right? How we bring empowerment at the shop floor to the operators who are doing the job. How do we connect the first level supervisors with the technology so that they solve the right issues on a real-time basis. And then we'll be making a visit in our Lexington facility for around 10 minutes video. And post that, I'll be sharing with you some of the lessons learned, that how many times we failed, what all we failed, how did we really picked up, made it a standard and arrived at this. So that's what we have coming up in next 25 to 30 minutes. Now, moving a little bit further, and let me take you around 3 or 4 years back. And this is where, in end of 2017, starting 2018, we started this journey of smart manufacturing. We had lots of questions. Everybody was doing many different things. We were not very clear what do we want to achieve through this. And that's where we all sat down together, and I'm lucky I was part of that organization that time who incepted this and did all the brainstorming amongst the different regions. How do we want to proceed? What all we want to achieve? Blah, 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 blah. It all brainstorming takes sometimes years. So it took us a good amount of time to really figure out where and how we want to adopt. And we conceived our aim of the smart factory is to bring end-to-end efficiency into our operations. That was the first thing, end-to-end efficiency and asset reliability, followed by bringing the latest innovative technologies inside the manufacturing domain. How do we bring them into the make? That time, there was separate old discussion, as Laura said, in the supply chain, how we want to do the simplifications of ERP, how we want to do, the automation in SIOP with Kinexis and all those things. But in the manufacturing, we were ignoring it for some time, and that's what we picked up with this, that how do we bring this? And then, of course, as Schneider Electric, we are the pioneer in industrial automation and energy management. How does we bring this into our factories and become a showcase to our customers, that whatever we sell to you is really we are adopting and getting the right benefit out of it. So that was the aim. And then, all of you would have heard in different places the EcoStructure. It's our technological stack where we place all our product in 3 different layers, starting with connected products. But we say any product of Schneider Electric which comes out in the market should have the capability of connecting to give the real-time right data out. So it should be IoT-enabled product. And then we have edge control, which is typically more about, bringing the real-time data, dashboarding, having the right alerts, and then apps and analytics on the top layer, which really takes this data and works further on the analytics and the further functions. So that's how the EcoStructure is stacked. But to sum up, one of the key vision what we had, that we wanted to bring the real-time data to all our first level supervisors, the first level people in the factory, to make the right quick decisions. So that was the full aim when we started this overall. And then in the end, we will speak how are we evolving this further. Moving a little bit further, let me introduce about Schneider Electric. So it's not a new name. We are typical global company with around 26 billion euros of revenue spread in 200 plus countries with 200 plus manufacturing plants and distribution centers. We have around 137,000 people all across the globe and very much distributed in all the geographies together. You can see the revenue impact, and this is all 2020. And this is where, Laura, it comes back to your comment that you were making just now, that how does manufacturing is inside supply chain or supply chain is inside manufacturing. So in the last decade, we also transformed all our manufacturing, distribution centers, procurement, upstream, all became, we call today as a global supply chain. Now, this global supply chain is in North America with around 18,000 employees, with 42 plants and distribution centers in 3 main countries, Canada, US and Mexico, and having a very strong presence in all, engineer to order, make to stock, configure to order, different kind of complex supply chain setups. And that's how we are placed in NAM. Now, I want to take you further, deep into detail, inside the factory. What does it mean when we say we have eco-structure in, and that's where, you will see we have different 6 key expertise of ecostructures, but I'll talk more practical, that if you are a plant manager, if you are a supply chain practitioner, if you are a vice president for cluster of factories, what does it mean for you when you go inside? Let's start on the right side, something called ecostructure power. We all consume the energy, right? These tools, digital tools, gives you the real-time consumption as well as the health of the power patterns, so that you get to know when the things are becoming abnormal. How do you make all your energy management reliable, digital, and survive on the sustainability to bring more energy savings to your business? That's what it all starts from, the ecostructure power. When we move further in ecostructure building, it speaks about how you remotely manage all the utilities of a factory. When we say utilities, all your lighting controls at one place. You all had been using nowadays lighting control in the mobile, but we were the first one, came pretty early with all these controls. And then how do you manage your air compressors? How do you manage your process chillers? All management through the ecostructure building. And then we go into the plant, into the shop floor, and that's what I will speak a little bit more detail in the next slide, that how do we bring the real-time visibility. If I'm an operator, I'm working on a machine, I have a problem, how do I generate end-on? How do I generate the real performance data of operators as well as the machines together so that we run efficiencies from there? How do we bring the reliability into our machines through EcoStruxure Machine using the connected technologies available with Aviva, like Aviva Edge and Aviva Insight, etc. I don't want to really confuse you, but whole things behind this is to bring the real-time data of the equipment on the table so that our operator is well augmented and makes the right and the quick, fastest decisions. That's out at a macro level inside the factory. When we go a little bit more detail inside the shop floor, and these are the one what we made really as a standard for all of us. What we really wanted, any factory inside the 200 places that we have, if you want to be called a smart factory, you should have the foundation of the basic tools. Through experiments, we standardized many of these tools, and we started small, realized the benefit, and then scaled up to all the other places. So standardization was the key. We should have some bare minimum technologies available in our manufacturing setup, and they should be speaking out and helping the plant operations to be more efficient and reliable. If you see remote expertise, typically you would have witnessed that you cannot manage all the machines smartly, but you can provide a glass to our operator. He can seize the same as an expert sitting 10,000 miles away sees the machines same way. And then he can guide you, mentor you how to resolve the problem. We have all the calibrations, all the basic MES for quality working remotely today, bringing the real critical to quality and critical to process parameters on the table. Now, the mindset of the people earlier who were spending hell of a time in inquiring about the data, capturing the data, and then making the decision, he has the data in front of him. And he knows where is going wrong. And now what he has to do is to act on the problem rather than spending hell of a times on different NVAs. We have something called digital lean methodology. Inside Schneider, we called lean digital systems, and this is something I really love about. And this is a typical example which we started small in 2 plants with Aviva and went on to become the biggest offer, and today it works in almost 150 plants of Schneider Electric. And what it does is, it standardizes all our end-on management, the performance management of our operators, as well as the machines, the OEs, all those things what you think. At this stage, and there are some videos available for Lexington in YouTube, you can have a look at them later. This is the major enabler for a plant manager to understand what is happening in my plant at which place on a real-time basis. So all those being done with performance and on the e-kanbans and work instructions inside the shop floor. And in the end, we will speak how we made the operators and the first level supervisors imbibing these technologies inside them. We moved further. We had, all this skill management happening digitally today. You know what level of your skill with the huge, disruption we see in supply chain today. And I don't want to talk about electronic crisis and all, but we all know what's happening around us. This is really giving us a huge flexibility in our operations. We are really struggling when the demand surged. Everybody started hiring, and we are struggling to hire. This gives us, okay, we have this many people, very strong on these areas. We can manage which areas are the weaker and how do we animate the production volumes into different scenarios. And then, of course, we have a huge deployment of automated guided vehicles and the advisors to have the right reliability and connecting them with the ERPs. Just to tell you, to dwell on what Laura said, we were not only 110, we were around 300 ERPs in Schneider Electric maybe 10 years back. And over the years, today it is less than 100. But how we kept on simplifying it. I have my friend, colleague who was running a plant before. She's smiling typically because majority of the plant or many of the plant came with different acquisition with different ERPs. So how to make that change, how to bring them to the regular standardization, that's what we achieved through all these initiatives. Our customers could not visit the factories. They wanted to have the remote validation or the inspection of their product, especially in the ETO business, engineer to order business, when we make big panels and devices, the customer wanted to see how well it is working. We have a beautiful final acceptance test digital module where you sit at your home, you can witness every minute details with our own solutions. And that's what we bring through this. Now, let me take you further inside to the Lexington. And before we go inside the Lexington plant and make the visit there, let me introduce you a bit of Lexington. And this is our one of the first smart factory across the globe as well as in the North America. So Lexington and Monterey, these were the 2 sites to whom we developed as a showcase factories for our customers. It is almost 550 people. We make load centers and safety switches, and it's almost 500,000 square feet plant. Fully vertically integrated with all the technologies like painting, electroplated, welding, fabrication, everything inside, with huge focus assembly and testing of our products. It's one of the complex factory what we call, and it's almost 62 years old. And how a brownfield factory to convert them from a typical traditional assembly plants or the fabrication plants to a little bit of automation and then to the smart. And that's the journey what we have achieved. This some good accolades from World Economic Forum. 2 of our sites in North America were awarded. Lexington, Kentucky was awarded the first Schneider Electric end-to-end advanced lighthouse factory, and then the Monterey developing into the lighthouse factory. So when we say end-to-end, let me take a quick minute to explain about this. When we say end-to-end, so we have a very good deployment of typical planning tools with our ERP connected, like Kinaxis, Schneider supplier portal, talking typically with our ERP and having all the upstream working fine. Then we have a huge deployment in Make, what we saw in the last 2 slides. And then we have a very good logistics and distribution centers also aligned together. We worked a lot on energy consumption. Typically, by deploying our EcoStruxure power tools, we have a 2-digit energy consumption annually through this. And that's what brought us these accolades from the World Economic Forum. And now, moving further, I like to take you inside the factory, and that's where...
Hello, welcome to Lexington, Kentucky. My name is Kenneth Laphart, and I'm the innovation leader for the Supply Chain Performance Group with Schneider Electric. I'm excited to have you here today in Lexington, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a digital transformation that we've performed here in an aged facility, a facility that's 63 years old. Some of the struggles that we've had in performing that digital transformation and how we achieved or went through some of the roadblocks to perform that digital transformation.
So we're now on the factory floor. We're standing here in our Customer Welcome Center in the Lexington facility. We make load centers and safety switches here in the Lexington facility, QO and home line load centers for energy distribution, commercial and residential applications, and safety switches. In single phase, 3-phase, varying in size from 30 amp to 200 amp varieties here in the facility. We are fortunate enough to be fairly vertically integrated in this facility. All of the high tonnage stamping, the plastic injection molding, the electroplating for the coating on our current carrying devices, the semi-automated assembly, the painting of the metal itself, and the semi-automated assembly, and even the material conveyance from fabrication all the way through the assembly line is under one roof. We're also fairly highly automated in the fact that we make approximately 2.8, nearly 3 million of these devices a year in this facility from a raw coil of steel, and we're making a little over 800,000 of these safety switch devices in the facility. We've progressed through the plant now to the point of our first station stop where I want to talk about unlocking siloed data. We noticed that we had concentrations of tribal knowledge in the facility, particularly around the knowledge that it takes to troubleshoot the pieces of electronic devices that control our machines, PLCs, PCs, documentation and information on that machine, critical health signals from that machine is difficult, requires a special skill for a person to come, hook a laptop up to a device to troubleshoot it, spend time trying to find documentation. We've implemented an augmented reality application here known as EcoStruxure Augmented Operator Advisor. And what EcoStruxure Augmented Operator Advisor has done for us is using the power of Node-RED, we've been able to unlock that data out of that PLC and deliver it in a real-time image, overlay that data in a real-time image of an actual camera view of a mobile device, such that now a technician or a maintenance mechanic or a supervisor or an operator no longer needs to rely on that tribal knowledge to connect the programming device, to debug or troubleshoot. They merely hold the tablet over their equipment, and the critical data pops up in real time and streams live. It's been very exciting for us and is delivered through our Wi-Fi network in the plants to our mobile devices. And let's take a look at one of the 16 different pieces of equipment that we've implemented this tool on, and let's see how it's delivered to us about a 20% reduction in mean time to repair. Now, I want to talk about two of the most important connected products that this facility has in terms of its digital transformation or its digital evolution. The first of which is the Aussie Sense offering, the Aussie RFID offering from Schneider Electric. The conveyor system, at any given time, we move over 7,000 parts in the sky from a fabrication group through paint and to the final assembly group in the right order, in the right priority, at the right time to the assembly line. Another very critical connected product for us that we have over 300 of in the facility are the Magellan HMIs. And you'll see those quite frequently throughout the plant. It gives all the operators the ability to visualize, to control their processes in the plant. We rely on them very heavily. It also has the ability, through the use of two advisor applications known as Secure Connect Advisor and Mobile Operator Advisor, the ability to deliver a cyber secure connection to any device that's on the subset of this device. It also gives you the ability to deliver control anywhere in your facility of the actual HMI screen through the use of Mobile Operator Advisor. So we use these throughout the facility. In this particular case, in our power and free system, information streaming from anywhere in the facility, from any one of our processes. This particular power and free system that we're standing in front of now has 8 different control panels like this and over 30 HMIs in the system that we can view what's going on across the plant and see from any individual location in the plant. And those are very powerful for us. So we're coming to a very critical process in the Lexington facility, and that's our paint room. You can understand with a process that's this complex, you know, a 7-stage pre-treatment system, the ability to e-coat 50 million square feet a year. You can understand the complexity and the amount of control and monitoring that needs to take place. So what we've implemented here in our paint system is we've implemented a solution known as EcoStruxure SCADA Expert based on Intusoft Web Studio, which has given us the ability to visualize and control 170 variables in the operation. Now, the really cool thing about the Intusoft Web Studio or EcoStruxure SCADA Expert application is its use of mobile thin clients and web thin clients to deliver that content anywhere in the building. What we're looking at here is we're looking at a live operator view of what the operator is using in the facility to control the processes. If you look through the control room here, you'll see another screen that looks exactly the same because this is a secure web client that has delivered this view or this input into this process in multiple locations throughout the video. So we're at a point in the tour now where I'd like to talk to you about our digital energy management system here in Lexington, Kentucky facility. We utilize 2 very important tools, one an edge tool and one an app and analytic layer tool. The edge tool is known as Power Monitoring Expert. Power Monitoring Expert lies here at the edge and uses a system of connected meters in your facility to tell us exactly where your energy usage occurs. It also has the ability to extract data from PLCs and PCs, and it lets you descriptively analyze comparisons of that connected meter data with certain things like empty hooks in our paint system, the different types of metal that we use in our plant, gas consumption on a particular day, gives you the discrete ability to descriptively analyze and dashboard your energy usage in a particular area of very great detail. Then at the regional level, in a cloud application known as Resource Advisor, we extract, our regional operations managers extract these cloud application data as a Power Monitoring Expert to the regional level, and they're able to do plant compare across Schneider. So for an entire region, we can analyze what we've spent and where we've spent that type of money, compare that to trends in weather, compare that to trends in year-over-year trends or month-over-month trends. Now, the use of this Power Monitoring Expert at the edge and this Resource Advisor at the cloud for a regional look, to give you an idea of how we've impacted our facility, Power Monitoring Expert has delivered us over 20% in energy reduction savings since its installation, over a 70% reduction in our carbon footprint or CO2 production. It's also given us over a 5% year-over-year energy savings reduction, and we're on track this year for 11% in energy reduction year over year. And the Resource Advisor application has given us over a $6 million savings since its inception here in North America at a regional level. So two very powerful tools for us here in Lexington. I want to thank you for being here with us at Schneider Electric in Lexington. And I ask that you come to the plant when you can in person. And maybe we'll see you then and tell you how we've developed more of our story. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you heard my colleague Mike Lavart presenting you the plant. Now, let me take you further. And this is what, we mentioned a little bit in the start, that this is what we decided in late 2017, starting 2018. And 3 years, we have really deployed all these things. Now, we are moving from smart factory to smart operations. We have the really connected machines available. The data is coming automatically. We are getting some preventive alerts, etc. But how do we move towards predictive analytics with this data? How do we move towards machine learning with all this data? And that's what our vision is now. That's the direction we want to go. With that, we really have to do a lots of work on end-to-end digitization of entire supply chain with all the upstream procurement as well as the downstream fully. We have really embarked on the journey, but still need to reach the right maturity level there. And then, of course, we want to be more efficient in the overall process to make our supply chain autonomous by having the right deployment of typical tools like RPAs, robotic process automation, as well as the right artificial intelligence into the operations to move us typically from connected descriptive diagnosis to predictive, and then of course prescriptive side. And that's what the journey we want to adopt from 2021 to 2023. With this comes a lots of challenges, lots of surprises, and this is what maybe the last slide I like to speak before we open up for Q&A. What all we really learned, how did we really realize all this ambition? The first and the foremost, for sure, we need to have a digital obsessed leadership. All of us who are at the leadership level need to be really having the right ambition where we want to be. Having a top-down approach always helps to get the right sponsorship for whatever we want to do. And really thank you to our CEO, our EVPs of supply chain, who really thought this well in advance and pushed us towards this direction. That was the first part. The second, the most important part which I would like to touch is the people. Now, none of this will really work if our people are not adopting this digital transformation. And we have seen that many of you would have been great lean practitioners, and you can understand that how the lean typically fails when there is no right adoption at all the levels. That's why we'll have to really understand the strength and the weaknesses of our factory. Not all the factories are same. They make different products with different processes, with different challenges, right? We have a factory in Monterey which is just 3.5 years old. We have a very young population. We have a factory Lexington which is 60 years old with very mature experience population. How do we really bring them together? That what is the value proposition for them? What will they achieve by adopting and using these tools and methodology? And that's what the change happens. Develop not only the technological guys, develop more and more the change agents who can really understand the core and can collaborate it with the digital transformation and marry them together for the right value proposition. That's the key success factor whenever you want to achieve these types of transformation. That's my learning. Of course, still we are learning and we are not successful in every factory. We have a different maturity level, but that's what comes out whenever we look back and see what went well and what went wrong. Another key point is, always start small, see how well it is working, how good it is to adapt for all the other manufacturing sites. It's not that something which works here will be able to adapt in all the different kind of manufacturing. Some industries, some plants are process plants. Some plants are typical discrete manufacturing. How do we adopt the right tool, standardize and scale fast? That's the model which brings a huge success. And again, and I want to really stress on this point, it's okay to be fail. Fail fast, accept and move on and try the next tool. If I keep on sometimes experimenting, we can figure this out. No, we don't have time. So even though if you fail, quickly leave it behind and try and experiment the next one. How do we adopt the new thing which is coming our way? We are all evolving. When I started lean manufacturing, I never thought that we will today be driving the digital transformation after 17 years in my career. So all that really changed very, very well, and we made it. And then the right side, I want to touch upon the cyber security. And we all know in the United States how disruptive it can be. It can stop all of us, right? And it happened maybe just a couple of quarters back when we had a big scarcity at the fuel stations everywhere across. So how do we bring the right infrastructure, the right application support to manage this? We have to work with the trusted suppliers and the partners so that we remain cyber secured. And then on the manufacturing side, when we bring in the new machine, new equipment, new line, how do we bring it into the same standard architecture so that we don't have any loopholes on the cyber security side? This can really create a major disruption in the overall manufacturing and supply chain if we are not well cyber secured. With that, I come towards the end of the presentation. And just I want to tell you, this digital transformation really empowers the people. And with that, you bring the right resilient supply chain. And that's what I strongly feel is the need of our. It's open now for any question and answers. Thank you.
Rick's got a microphone, but before we actually get going, so you've been with Schneider 21 years.
17 years.
Okay.
17 and a half years.
17 and a half years. And did supply chain report to manufacturing in the very beginning?
No, it was distributed basically. So manufacturing and supply chain was together and logistics and distribution was separate. They were all two separate entities when we started working in Schneider Electric.
Now, my understanding is Annette Clayton really championed the supply chain strategy. Right?
Yes.
She's one of my faves, right?
Yes.
So tell me about your personal experience of going through Annette's supply chain strategy at a core in terms of how that affected manufacturing.
Yeah. So as you said, Annette joined us sometime in 2011, 2012, and she's favorite for all of us as well. She really brought a very new set of thinking that the manufacturing is not just pertaining to you, it's part of the global supply chain, as we are the most chain. We buy the parts right from China, India, right from Southeast Asia and Europe to make the products in US and vice versa. So our supply chain is truly global. Even though we are best in manufacturing, we found if we have a big issue on the upstream or the big disruption on the downstream side, we were disruptive and we were not being able to achieve the overall excellence. So that end-to-end supply chain concept was Pointer. She brought this whole distributed organization together and we brought it together. So initially, hardcore a manufacturing guy, I was thinking, why we are only focusing on this side? What does it happen? And it took me some time to really absorb and understand that yes, that is a key to be successful in manufacturing. And this is what typically happening today. If your upstream is not secure, you don't have electronic parts, you have a major disruption in the plants and they are closed at times. And we know what's happening in automotive today. It's really a key, and same thing is happening on the global logistics side when we have, a ship stuck at one place, and we all know how all we got disruption, because that's the key to understand and look into end-to-end perspective. That's what is my experience.
So I just want to be sure we crystallize and are clear on terms. When you say end-to-end, what do you mean?
Tough one. So end-to-end is right from identifying the supplier, the raw material, the commodities, buying them, bringing the parts at the supplier places, or if we are doing the manufacturing inside at that places, and then bringing that rightly at a right time with right healthy inventory proposition to the factories, manufacturing the product, and then distributing and making sure it reaches the customer on the required time with the right standard quality. So that's what end-to-end means to us.
Okay. And end-to-end means very different things to different people. And I just want to put a teaser out there. You know, when I teach supply chain and I have people draw supply chain 150 times, only one person started with the customer. Most people start with the supplier, right? And so if we look at outside-in processes and we think about digital factories.
There are many definitions for the digital factory. So if I go back to one of my slides, we created a basic standard that we should have all these tools working inside the factory, and I'll just go a little bit more details what those tools mean to us, that how do I have the real-time information of availability of parts, the real-time information of my capacities, the real-time information of the complete manufacturing setup, what is the what is the uptime of the machines, what is MTTR, MTBFs, how do we work on to get that, how's the efficiency of the equipment, you call OEEs, or the operator efficiencies, how much we can produce typically. And then how we manage the downstream, which is what time we ship the product to our distribution centers, what time the product was shipped out from the distribution centers, and when did it reach to the customers. So that's what, so we don't only work on the manufacturing digitally, we also work on the smart distribution centers. We have not spoken much about that because it still has not matured the way we have matured in manufacturing, but our journey now has significantly moved from manufacturing to smart distribution centers, so that we realize the same set of digital real-time accessibility as we have in the factory. So to us, just to sum it up, having the real-time information available is defined the digital factories.
So would it be fair to say it's sensing and synchronizing time?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the right word.
And what is a smart factory? Is a smart factory digital, or is that a more advanced concept than digital?
Okay. So smart factory was the first, maybe the foundation for being the digital full-fledged, what we call the digital supply chain or the digital factories. So that was the first major milestone that we have. And then, as I said, we are moving from smart to factory to smart operations. We really digitized our factory operations. Now we are moving to smart operation. We really want to bring in the right data sets for using the right technologies of the data analytics into our operations. So for us, smart factory was a building block towards the smart operations, and this all becomes the digital.
Thank you for that. You know, my caution is everyone uses these words differently. And to really drive organizational growth, you've got to be really clear in the definition. And that's one of the things that I really applaud my friend Annette for, because I think when she put the supply chain strategy together, she did one of the best jobs of defining some of these terms. Now, if we hadn't been in COVID, we had been on bus this morning and we would have gone to your factory. And we would have seen the people. And I think we would have seen the people with pads and electronic mechanisms in their hands. Would we have seen any paper?
In the Lexington, hardly no, but still in some of our engineer-to-order factory, we still see some papers, and maybe another few more quarters, we should be out of that. But that's the beauty of this overall process. You go to Lexington, there is a breakdown, our engineer goes to the machine with his tab, his all is working, and realize the problem. So his time to react on that problem has significantly reduced, because earlier he will come, he will open the PLCs and go into details, what's working well, what's not working well, to arrive at the root cause of the problem was the biggest issue. And now with just a QR code, he knows which part of the machine is having the problem.
Now let's talk about organizational governance. You know, how do you define manufacturing excellence? And how do you make choices around improvement versus standardization? Because you've got a whole organization that's working on that. So and not everybody has that organization. So can you give some insights?
Yes. And I can talk a little bit, and it's really a detailed question, and thank you for that. And this is something we are into middle of this. So I have that opportunity into Schneider Electric when I joined. I joined as a master lean expert in one of our manufacturing plant and then scaled up from there. We used to call ourselves as industrial performance manager, which is manufacturing excellence leaders. And then we evolved to the supply chain excellence leaders. And now, of late, we are defining the complete digital part, what you saw today, as part of our excellence system, what we called Schneider production system before. Now it's renamed as Schneider performance system, which is set of, again, it's not something we created new. We adopted it by seeing the best practices of different big automotives, starting with Toyota. And that was the architecture of our lean manufacturing model, but more adapted to our kind of manufacturing. We don't make cars. We make the switch gears, the industrial automation products. So we wanted to adapt those principles suiting to our kind of manufacturing. And from there, it started our manufacturing excellence journey, which went on to become the supply chain excellence. And now we are at a stage where all this smart factory is getting integrated inside that. And we periodically audit them. So SPS audits are one of the favorite thing in Schneider Electric, which, when Annette came on board, and she was surprised that we have so many ERPs, so many different things. The one thing which binds all of us together, and that's what I remember Annette telling me in 2012, she was visiting and we were presenting to her, and she stated that I was confused, how do you manage your SOP and overall delivery systems? And then I was introduced to SPS. And that's the power of the standardization we brought through SPS. Because we want to have the same set of KPIs, same set of process to manage the performance and see how we are maturing and improving on that.
And SPS is?
Schneider Performance System.
Good. Thank you. And what metrics do you use to measure manufacturing excellence?
Okay. So I slightly touched on that. So every plant, we do a cyclic audit. It's part of our even key internal controls as well, where every plant has to undergo an assessment called SPS audit. And the score of that assessment defines the manufacturing excellence score of a plant. And I lead lots of trainings for our plant managers. And the one is coming next month. Typically for all the new plant managers who take on the jobs, what we really explain them that when you take a plant, maybe your SPS score is basic out of the expert, like 2 out of 5. It's scaled on 1 to 5, which is 1 at a novice level, then the basic, then the standard level. Our vision is to make all these 200 plants and distribution at a standard level, which is 3 out of 5. So we measure them on the scale, and the key transformation for the plant managers, their talent profile, everything, when we measure them on the SPS scores, that when they inherited a plant, where the plant was and where they are living in next 2, 3 or 4 years of their tenure.
And the key element of the audit is what measures go into the audit? Oh,
there are 33 different clauses. It covers right from the people commitment domain, what we call, it's distributed in 3 pillars: people commitment, product and process engineering, and then the logistics and supply chain processes. And quality is distributed in all these 3 modules because we believe quality is inherent to all of us. So it's when we say people commitment, it monitors that how well you measure the barriers and how quickly you resolve them. What is the efficiency levels of your operators? How your HR processes are working, the appraisal management, the succession planning. So everything gets monitors in that. When we come to process, we audit, and this is my favorite area. I can speak for a week on this area. When we move to the process, it speaks about how well your lines are designed. How well is your safety and ergonomy built inside the processes. And then when we move to...
I'm sorry, safety and economics?
Yes.
Okay. And how do I measure economic? Safety is pretty clear, right?
Ergonomic.
Ergonomic.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I misunderstood
yeah.
you. Okay.
Ergonomy is how accessible are the parts, how easy for the operators, do they have any skeletal-muscular disease by repeatedly working on high assembly parts.
Got
We
it.
really want to take care of our people through these operations.
Got it.
We want to design a line which are easy to operate. If our new operator joins in, he gets to train and learn and move fast.
Well, I've had a great time with Q&A, but let's have some questions from the audience. We got Rick and Regina running some mics. Just raise your hand and ask Bharat some questions. Anybody got a question for Bharat? Looks like you did a good job. I don't see it. Oh, no, here's some questions.
We have some
Will.
question here as well, yes.
We got Bill over here, and we got Madhav. So, Bill, can you just say your name and your company?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're gonna hold it. Thank you. Getting down here. My name's Bill Benton from Gain Systems. You mentioned optimizing processes before deploying a tool. It's a common quandary that I've noticed. Optimum process is embedded or requires the tool, and that trying to optimize it beforehand means more throwaway spreadsheets or other interim techniques. How did you guys manage that trade-off?
You know, and I would just say that most people implement technologies without really looking at the process. And
Yes.
65% of people are highly dependent on Excel, even though we've spent 1.7% of revenue on technology.
Yes.
So I think this is a great question. Thank you, Bill. So how did you do process optimization and that technology balance?
Yeah, so both goes together, and that's what I touched a little bit when we say lean manufacturing. If your process is not well established, none of this technology will work. Just imagine you want to do lean manufacturing in your premises, you want to reduce WIP, but you have a big breakdowns in your machines. The process is not established, you have a big quality issues into your processes. You cannot really make the end product. So both goes together, and you'll have to really signify that where lies the major issue. It's not necessary that you have to embark on this technological journey, all the plants together. If I'm mature, my plant is established, I really go ahead and adopt the technology. If the basics of the plants are not working, none of these initiatives will work. Just to tell you, as you stated, we are not calling any plant as a smart factory unless they achieve our SPS assessment score, which checks the overall sustainability of our end-to-end processes inside the factory or the DC. If they are not 3 out of 5, which means if they are not standard in their manufacturing operations, we don't want to call them as a smart factory, because we know none of these things will work if the basics are not working. So that's my quick 2 cents on that.
Do you have a team that does this, that works for you?
Yes, the team works with me.
And how many people?
Okay, so there is a core team which works with me on this, which is around 8 to 10 people. And then we identify 1 or 2 or 3 people in each key functions. Like there are 3 or 4 planning experts who works in a dotted line with my organization, who are the experts in auditing. And that's not their full-time job. And then we pick up some of the people from our plants, like a supply chain planning manager of a plant will go and audit another plant. And this is where they learn that how well they adopt the good practices, they come back and follow the same.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Madhav, I think you had a question. Regina, if you want to move the mic to Madhav. And Madhav, just start with your name. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll come back there.
We have one here, yeah.
Okay.
Jill Warner, Corning Incorporated.
Hi, Jill. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Very happy to be here. This is pretty big, a very big transformational change, that people are the blockers. And how did you maybe cite a couple of examples where you ran into that and how you got past that?
Okay.
How'd you get past the people being the blocker? One of the things I think Schneider had was just this tailwind of leadership. I mean, you go to a Schneider plant, it's got an up feeling. It's not a typical plant, right? One of the things I do when I go to plants is I look at everybody's bulletin boards and I look if people are smiling, and Schneider's got a lot of up plants, right? And it's, manufacturing is really the heart of Schneider, right? And but how did you get over the organizational barriers?
Yes. So the first, there is no one methodology which works when it comes to people. You'll have to adapt as per the culture. As I stated, when we were in Monterrey, in Mexico plant, which is very new, it was very easy to bring people on the board, and they were very, very technological savvy, and many people comes. I worked in India before taking this job, taking care for India, Middle East, Africa for the same thing. I found different challenges based on the maturity of the plant. And I like to give you one example here. Line. When I arrived here 2.5 years before, typical mindset is we don't want to follow this. Take an example of an e-endome, which is very simple. Anybody will like to tell this problem. He says, we don't want to adopt. Why? Because I have a walkie-talkie. If I have a problem, I call the technician, he comes and solves it. Why the heck I use all these things and blah, blah, blah. And it was really difficult. Then, we really took what the good practice they have in their system and made sure that the technology what we want, they should marry together. How we teach them that this is the right value proportion to them, for them. And that's only helped us. We got failed in many of the plants. We are still struggling in some of the plants big time, but we really made a significant progress in around 100 plus plants with this. So you have to train any new employee when we hire. We have to train continuously. All the operators, they go through the cyclic training after every quarter, 2 quarters, depending on the learning curve of different things. We are really spending a lot of time on training to these guys. And once they start to understand that it's not affecting me, rather it is helping me very quickly, it is linked to my performance appraisal now, I'm doing quite well, we see the good alignment. And on top of that, as I said, the top-down alignment was always key enabler.
And I think really that, helps. The carrot and the stick, I think when digital manufacturing transformation, sometimes when operators know that you're going to see their data, they're fearful what's going to happen to them. And I think one of the things Schneider did really well was really giving a lot of carrots, right, and fewer sticks, and, helping people to embrace that visibility of performance is a good thing, and we learn from each other. So I think, when you get Bharat at break, talk a little bit about culture, because I think we don't use enough carrots with the evolution of digital transformation. One last question, Madhav. We got to keep this train on the track.
I'm Madhav Durba with Coupa Software. Fantastic presentation, Bharat. The question I have is, when I look at the Lexington factory, it's highly digitized, and it seems to be running at a different clock speed compared to other parts of the system. So when the downstream systems, like your warehouse systems and so on, are not necessarily on par in terms of maturity, does that introduce any friction points? And how do you still provide that end-to-end?
That's a tough question.
It's a very, let me tell you, it's a very good question, very deep inside. So we have 2 types of warehouses inside us. One is the distribution centers who manage all the finished goods. One is the warehouse inside the factory which supports the factory. And honestly, that is really one of the key area which we need to improve still. I can be very honest and blunt, we are still struggling with the best warehousing practices inside our plants. In fact, yesterday I was in a global call, and I informed them that I recently hired one of the best experts in my team. That's the area still we see brings the friction and not fully aligned with the technologies. Even though we have the AGVs, and I can be very honest, some of the plants, they work very well. And now we are challenging why we have the manual delivery of the parts. It should be all AGVs. They have gone to that level. We have another plants where even though we have the AGVs, they don't work well. Because many disruptions around the flow, around the process, the shortages. So we are still in the middle of that and figuring it out the right way. Because as I said, I don't think there is 1 and 0. We'll have to keep on experimenting, each side separately. We have a big program on that side which is now getting framed up to have the right level of our warehouses to the factories.
The synchronization of warehouse and manufacturing is tough, but tomorrow we're going to talk about unified data models and synchronizing those signals. So let's give Bharat a hand.
Thank you.